Tom Verducci of SI.com, Sports Illustrated, got a lot of people talking earlier this week when Tom wrote an article suggesting that it might be time to consider a rule change preventing teams from using shifts on defense. Now, as Tom's point of view, I think, is, look, he's saying, I'm not saying that this is the be-all and end-all and the absolute way you're going to increase offense in the game. But what his suggestion is, at least we have a dialogue about it. At least we have a dialogue about the effect of shifts on offense in baseball. Now, I mean, I'm one of those people who does not like. It's not that I don't like change, but I definitely don't like adding rules. You can change existing rules, you can fudge them a bit, but I'm not a big fan of adding rules. And I mean, I understand what Tom's trying to create a conversation here, and using his position as a high-profile columnist and an analyst on Fox Sports broadcast. So that's fine. But Joe, my first reaction when I saw this, and I got to tell you the truth. If some people had written this, I wouldn't have read it. Verducci's writing it. Okay, I'll read it. I'm trying to see his argument, but shifts to me, I mean, what do shifts do? They limit singles. They don't limit extra base hits. They certainly don't limit home runs. I mean, I guess they could get in a hitter's head and affect the way he's swinging, but this idea that you've got to address lack of offense in baseball by defensive shift, I mean, I just can't. I can't support it.
No, I can't either. We're going to start drawing grids out on the field and say the second baseman can't go past this point. The shortstop has to do this. The biggest thing for shifts, and you just said, it takes away a lot of the singles. When you see an Ortiz come up, Steven Drew, some of the guys that are heavily shifted in this game, you load up the right side of the field. So the second baseman, the shortstop, third baseman might hang around that shortstop position, but you're loading up that right side, essentially taking out ground ball base hits because that's what they're doing. The percentages show that they hit a high percentage of ground balls that they hit are to the right side, so you load it up. But yeah, a lot of guys, you see Teixeira do it. You see the line drives that beat the shift. Well, the line drives usually go over their heads or into the gaps or over the fence. So I do it. It's singles that you're taking away. And hey, hitters will tell you. I remember talking to Dan Johnson just when we were away in Tampa because he laughed because Joe Madden was the start of all this mess, and Dan was with the Rays, and he said, they know, but it does play with your head. He said, it's cost me a lot of hits because ask Colby Rasmus. He's hit a number of hard ground balls that would be base hits into right field this year, and the second baseman's playing out in right field and throws them out at first base. So it certainly works in those regards, especially to certain hitters, but I just think we're seeing more shifts than ever before now. It seems like every hitter that comes to the plate, infielders are moving around.
Craig Calcaterra of NBC's Hardball Talk joins us. He takes the opposite approach to Tom Verducci, and I loved your lead, Craig. I suppose General Cornwallis hated it and considered it unsporting for the Continental Army to hide behind rocks and trees and stuff rather than march in formation and fire from established lines during the Revolutionary War. That's basically what this comes down to, isn't it?
It's unsporting. It's unsporting.
Well, exactly. Yes, it is.
I don't know. It's just ridiculous to me. I mean, Willie Keeler was famously quoted as saying, hit them where they ain't. And now Tom Verducci is saying, no, Willie, don't be a victim. We have a rules change that can help you out. I mean, that's stupid. Come on.
Well, and you know what, Craig? We've seen with this team, with the Blue Jays, how Jose Bautista heavily shifted earlier in the year. He beat the shift, and now when they play Tampa, Jose Bautista does not get the shift that he used to get against Tampa Bay. It's very simple. You do something, you beat it, managers change.
Yeah, good hitters adjust. They always have. I mean, over 150 years of baseball history, we have seen, contexts change and strategies change. And, while this might be really bad if you're a 37-year-old dead-pull left-handed hitter, if you're able to go in another direction, you're going to do okay. I mean, they're giving you a whole side of the field sometimes. And I'm not saying that you should get away from your power game because, like you guys just mentioned, I mean, your power game is your power game. If you have a pitch you can drive and pull, still do it. But the ability to sort of change on the fly is one that should be something worth lauding. I mean, we got really in a rut with take and rake big lumbering hulks in baseball over the past 15 or 20 years, and now we have something that is encouraging athleticism on defense, encouraging versatility on offense. That's good stuff.
Craig, are you surprised with all these shifts that more hitters aren't dropping bunts down that third baseline, for example, these left-handed hitters?
Well, after listening to Colby Lewis the other night, I wonder if some of them aren't doing it because of propriety or something. I mean, who knows? That was even dumber than the Verducci thing. I'm sure you guys in Toronto talked about that like crazy already.
Yeah.
But it's hard to change your game. Certainly, I think it's one thing to say, well, let me open up a little bit and maybe see if I can take something the other way versus I'm going to drop a bunt, because I mean, most of these guys who are getting shifted on aren't going to be your strongest bunters anyway. I think occasionally dropping one down to keep people honest is not a bad thing, but no different than just showing bunt or whatever in certain situations to see what the defense is doing.
And, you point out in your piece, it's Craig Calcaterra of NBC Sports joining us in Baseball Central. You point out in your piece that there have been rules changes in the past, and you talk about outlawing the spitball, lowering the mound, installing the DH, but you also point out the spitball and DH weren't about offense. The spitball was a safety issue. And the DH was a move to boost sagging attendance, and even the lowering of the mound by 5 inches in 1969. Part of that was to standardize the height of mounds. And again, as you refer, I can remember Felipe Alou talking about the mound at Dodger Stadium, how it used to look to him like guys were standing 10 feet over his head, throwing at him because the mound was so high.
Yeah, there's this expectation, this generalized standard of a 15-inch mound before 1969, and it had actually gotten up to like 18, 19,
yes.
20 inches in some places. It was a little bit insane. And so that was about fairness and standardization just as much as it was about offense. Plus, the low offense of the 60s had a lot to do with a changing strike zone as well. That started around 1962-63 or so, and that was also adjusted. And then, of course, expansion in 1969 helped the offense as well. But yeah, the spitball rule happened in 1920. That was when Ray Chapman was killed by a spitball in the twilight that he probably couldn't see because it was a black ball. And the DH was more about the gate. I mean, the American League was really concerned about attendance. They equated the lack of offense with the lack of attendance, but there were a lot of other things that were going into that in the late 60s and early 70s. So, yeah, when you've got a problem in the game, a real problem, not just an on-the-field competitive issue, you've got fairness issues or you've got some systemic issue, sure, go ahead and look at a radical rules change. I'm open for it. But when it's just a matter of this doesn't seem right because the guys aren't able to do what they used to do, well, tough.
Somebody's got to make an adjustment. I think it's the hitters. Now, I think, Craig, and you can agree with me or disagree, we're seeing more guys coming out of bullpens now, and not to mention the starters, but the bullpen guys, we're seeing more and more throwing mid to upper 90s. And not only that, but it's the specialization of these bullpens. We've got a guy to come in now in the 7th for the hold, and then a setup guy in the 8th, and then the closer in the 9th. These hitters are seeing a different pitcher every at-bat the last 4 or 5 innings of a game sometimes.
That definitely contributes to it. And what that really contributes to is the biggest thing we have right now with low offense and maybe lack of activity in the game, and that's the strikeout. We've got these fireballers striking guys out. Right now, we are at historic highs for strikeout rates, something like 20-some percent. It's over 20% now of at-bats ending in strikeouts. And then there's just no time in baseball history where it's been that close. That's a real problem. That's about hitters' approach. That's about really fast pitchers and things like that. And last I checked, a shift doesn't affect strikeouts. So that's really the biggest problem right there. If hitters are going to adjust their approach and cut down on their strikeouts, maybe choke up, maybe try to go the other way. Also, let's look at the strike zone a little bit. There are some people, and there's a lot of disagreement on this right now. I don't think we have anything definitive about it, but that especially left-handers are getting squeezed. Are getting very large strike zones when they're hitting, and there's some anecdotal evidence about that. It's not really clear though.
Craig, it was good of you to join us today and contribute to the discussion. As I said, I think that's what Verducci wanted. He wanted to get a discussion going, and I loved your take on it. Thanks so much.
Cool. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.